So I have to admit, I am a lot more optimistic about Ashes of Creation's development after this month's official live stream. This month, Intrepid made a ton of little changes that made the live stream way more assuring, which is good because listening to the community feedback about the live streams is a great way to regain some of the lost trust. The biggest thing they changed was Steven did the basic showcase of the abilities, with all the cooldowns turned to 0 for a better show and tell. But then he turned over control of the character to one of his developers, with the cooldowns set to normal, to show the more complex combos of the mage abilities in a way of how you're going to expect it to play in Alpha 2. They showcased the mage with 16 abilities on the hotbars. Now, they didn't show and tell all the different abilities. They focused on the lightning and frost abilities, as those are the ones that are in the process of passing phase 2, which was another great thing about this live stream. Intrepid talked about their development process. For the abilities, they're using a 3-phase process. Phase 1 is open-ended, and they try everything under the sun to figure out what they like, what they don't like, what works, what doesn't work. They put the abilities together and they do playables twice a week. Then, as was showcased in this video, they showed abilities that are in the process of passing phase 2, which means that the developers at Intrepid are happy with the abilities and they're now ready for external feedback. This means that they're not expecting to have to do a lot of changes, maybe some balancing, maybe some additional polish, but they're giving it to the community now to look at, talk about, and if major things don't work, Intrepid knows they will have to go back and maybe send some of those back to an earlier phase. What was interesting about the Mage showcase was the complexity of what Intrepid is trying to do. Intrepid is building on a 4-element system for the Mage, where you can stack one elemental status effect, in this case, the chill effect from the frost abilities. And when you stack enough chill effects, you get a frozen status effect. If you hit a frozen enemy with a lightning ability, you will proc a shatter, which triggers a burst damage result. This is one of the questions the developers had for the community. Are you happy with this level of complexity? Is this too complex? Is this not complex enough? This is a good time to leave a comment here or over on their official forums in their Mage feedback thread. What was also really interesting was the Elemental Empowerment ability. This allows your basic attacks to transfer the elemental status of the last ability you used. For those not familiar with Ashes of Creation, there are no auto attacks. Instead, there are basic weapon attacks that are used as fillers between class kit abilities. This is part of the overall mana management system. Every class is going to have to consider mana. You won't be able to use your most powerful abilities all the time. You simply won't have the mana to do that. Intrepid is also going with a design decision to make battle mages, where you can be a mage using a 2-handed weapon, be on the front line, be in your enemy's face, and that is something that's going to be unique for Ashes, but will also require a lot of balancing. Most MMORPGs make the mage a squishy, backline, ranged character. I know that the sentiment about the mage was that this looks overpowered or overtuned, and I would agree with you. But it's important to remember this is the most flushed out archetype kit we've seen in 6 years of Ashes development. We've never seen a kit with 16 abilities on the bar. We've never seen this sort of interaction and synergy between the skills inside of one of the archetypes. I think it's important to remember that no doubt cleric, tank, fighter, range, we've seen their basic kits, but as those kits develop, they will all develop to the same level of completion and complexity of mage. And there is no doubt that other things like conviction in those other kits will need to be looked at. We also saw the ability to move while channeling and casting. The Blizzard effect was interesting, with being able to move a little bit without breaking the cast, as opposed to other kits where if you move, you break your channel. How do people feel about mobility? Should you have some limited mobility while you are casting? Or should it be the more traditional, if you move, you stop casting, stop channeling? It's another thing I'd like you to leave a comment on below. We did find out some abilities will be able to fire projectiles around corners. This is going to be an interesting spin on hybrid combat. as using terrain or cover is usually used to break line of sight and the ability to be damaged. If you are able to fire projectiles around corners, I have to ask, does terrain not break tab targeting? We did see that Slumber is an AoE sleep. That might be a little overpowered depending on how Intrepid handles diminishing returns on crowd control. But before we jump on the Slumber is overpowered train, let's wait and see how they handle other archetypes, CC breaks, and the other archetypes' CCs. We did get some non-mage stuff in this update. We found out that mounts will have 4 abilities or skills that you can improve the distance your mount can glide or your mount can operate. This was sort of exciting news, as we know that True Flight is going to be limited to about 10 to 15 players on a server at any given time. The ability to get some lift on your gliding mount means you might be able to use the terrain to your traveling advantage. It was nice to see another new area of the world. While we were still in the Riverlands, this video took place at the Hall of Judication, which was an Aelin court or prison. They didn't take us inside, as this was meant to show off the mage skills, not another open world dungeon area, but we do know now of another open world dungeon area. It would be nice if Intrepid would start showing off some different biome areas, just to reassure people that other areas of the map have been worked on. Several years ago, they ventured into the Badlands, or the corrupted area of one of the maps. It would be interesting if they could go back there, or the Arctic, or the desert, or back to the islands that the pre-Alpha 1 footage was shot at, just so people could see these other new areas being developed. If Intrepid were to make one more change to the live stream format, I would still recommend they break up the 40-minute video into smaller sections. A 40-minute video right in the middle of a live stream is a bit weird of a way to showcase. With the Mage video, they could have done Steven's show and tell of the abilities, then cut back to the live stream to take a half a dozen questions, then switch back to the video for actual gameplay fighting, and then gone back to questions. This sort of transitions would be a better way to keep the audience engaged and not have people zoning out during a 40-minute block video. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you enjoy the 40-minute block video on Twitch. And I'm in no way saying don't do the 40-minute block video. I just think a 40-minute block video would showcase better on YouTube, and chop that up into segments, show a little video, do a little Q&A, show a little video, do a little Q&A. And with that said, I'm really looking for your opinion, your feedback, your comments. What did you think about this month's live stream? As always, I stream 3 days a week on Twitch. If you want to talk about Ashes, swing by. The link's in the description, and I will see you next time.